Hello and welcome to the Groovie Bunch, the UK's independent variety show. I'm your host Thomas W. Kelly, your undercover Aussie with less clucks to give than a hen on ketamine. Yeah, it's cold and flu season when half of the country sounds like they're auditioning for a tuberculosis commercial. But, if you've got to love the traditional flu remedies. Hot toddy, which is essentially whiskey mixed with regret. Or beef tea, which is, wait a second, beef tea? Right, because nothing says health like pouring Bovril into boiling water and pretending it'll fix your depression. Yeah, so tonight we've got two fantastic guests to lift your spirits. Woo! Yes, the award-winning comedian Karen Bayley. Woo! And of course the keynote speaker and humorologist Paul Boross. Woo! Very excited. But first up, we've got What the Cluck. That's right, it's cold and flu season when the Englishman huddles under the duvet, Uber eats a chicken korma and sucks down a cup of tea like it's a frickin' vaccine. Yes, that's British culture, taking the best bits of your culture to feel better about Brexit. Yes. And then there's the advice. You go to the doctor, wait 45 minutes, and what do they say? Rest and drink plenty of fluids. Right, thanks doc. I'll just hop back onto my Victorian fainting couch and get on the Lemsip, shall I? Or maybe I'll lick a battery and just hope for the best. I do what all Englishmen do when they have a cold. You assume the fetal position, rock back and forth and ask for mummy. No, sorry, that's just Montenegro fans when they lost 1-0 to Wales. Oh. Is that funny? I don't know, I don't understand football, I know about as much as the average fan understands about doing the sausage roll to get ready for RuPaul's Drag Race. Not quite enough to hide the sausage, but too much to mention casually at a pub. How about that Wales and Montenegro game, eh? Yeah, 1-0. I think that I'm a woman born in a man's body. What? Yeah, Wales was great. I don't know anything about football, so please do not shout at me on the street or ask me about being a woman trapped in a man's body. That's what alcohol and locker rooms are for. Gay saunas too, they're great. So yeah, now let's flick the bean towards Australia. If the state of Kansas was a nation that spoke with a lisp. My favourite, stupidest story is King Charles went to Australia and wasn't invited to the barbecue, mate. Yes, the 6 state premiers have refused to welcome him, stating that they're too busy running the bloody place to fillet the ego of a royal meat puppet. Yeah, see, I'm Australian and English, so I'm laughing from two sides. The side that's so relaxed I'd smile through a heart attack, and the side that is so English I'm stressed enough to actually have one. Hashtag statistics. So yeah, getting snubbed by the premiers is objectively hilarious. Like a pug dog stuck halfway through a cat flap. Or like Tommy Robinson getting sued by a 16-year-old Muslim boy. Ooh, yes, the state premiers are the highest elected officials. A bit like if the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse hired Bazza, the horseman of cold beer, and Jono, the horseman of patriarchy. Yeah. See, the best part of this story is that the premiers boycotting has offended an obscure group, the Australian Monarchist League. three words I never thought I'd hear together. Like heartfelt compulsive reach around. Or impeachable bloodshed inheritance. Yes, the Australian Monarchist League. 3 words so unlikely to appear together in a game of Scrabble that you'd have to steal the board and murder the owners to make it legal. Oh wait, ding dong, I just got 15 points for the word colonialism. See, the fact that they made it into the BBC report made me laugh. There's more like the indentation of someone's arse rather than the actual seat of power. But switching topics, did you know that Nvidia has more power than the East India Company ever did? In 2018, your inspired next-door neighbour used Nvidia chips to mine Bitcoin. Is foolproof, yeah? You join network too. Now, I'm not saying that Nvidia is like the East India Company who controlled the tea and spice trade, monopolizing commodities that everyone else needed but couldn't access without going through... Wait a second. You want graphics card? Well, you're going to have to fork over your life savings or wait in line like a Victorian orphan begging for gruel. So let's recap. It's cold flu season, the Brits are drinking whiskey-flavoured depression, and the royal family is getting ghosted by Australia like a bad Tinder date. It's like the past 300 years of British history decided to just repeat itself, but with way better graphics. Thanks, NVIDIA. That's the British way. Slightly ill, constantly annoyed, but soldiering on in an office that sounds like it just inhaled a cake. And now, put your kettle on for a brew and welcome our first guest. Tonight we are in for a treat. Our guest is an award-winning comedian who's been making audiences laugh for over 2 decades. She was the first woman to ever win the legendary Comedy Store King Gong Award. Woo! Yes, right. She's performed across the globe and she's written for some of TV's biggest comedy hits. So please welcome the delightfully saucy, the razor-sharp Karen Bayley.
Let me introduce myself. My name's Karen. I'm from Birmingham. If you don't know Birmingham, think Peaky Blinders. This is not an accent, by the way. It's a contraceptive. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, first of all. I am single. Oh, you see, that's why I always get, I want cock, not pity. I'm also a little bit of a cougar. Mm-hmm. Do we know what a cougar is? It's an older woman that likes younger men. Somebody said to me, what's the difference between a cougar and a MILF? If you don't know what a MILF is, that's an acronym for Mother I'd Like to. I can't be a MILF, I haven't got any kids. However, I have shagged my nephew's mate. So that makes me an ALF. You have to explain that in Birmingham. What's wrong with shagging your aunt? I normally like to address, we've probably got loads of young women out there watching tonight, hopefully. Hopefully not that you're young, but you're watching. Or young people, or women as I like to call fertile fannies, sat there with all your eggs. I'll tell you this about me, because I've had an operation. I've had it all taken away. This is emptier than Prince Andrew's diary. What I'm saying, lads, they've taken away the cot, but they've left the playpen. And when I say playpen, I mean it's got bars on and you can't get out. It's a big operation, and I think women, we should be able to talk about this, right? A friend of mine said to me, Karen, it's such a big operation. What you need to do to help you heal, she's a bit of a twat, is write a poem. I said, who do I write the poem to? She said, your womb. Now, I know it's comedy, but it's very short, and it is helping me heal. Thank you. Hello, my name is Karen. Once you've gone, I will be barren. Thank you. Didn't really need the operation. I just want to win Slimmer of the Week at Weight Watchers. So I like to do a bit of audience participation. I'm imagining that you're going to answer me. So if you like sex with the lights on, give me a cheer. Ooh, sex without lights on, give me a cheer. You just want sex, don't you, guys? When I ask that question, like people who like sex with the lights on, it's men, skinny women. You know who you are. Skinny women are going, lights, lights, give me floodlights. The rest of us, we've got blackout curtains, pyjamas up to here. I've got a onesie with a flap. That's a good idea, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going on Dragon's Den with that. I want to see Deborah Mead and trying to get the Velcro out of her bits. Brings a whole new meaning to Dragon's Den. I am a lights-off girl. I'm not shy. I just don't want to see the fear in their eyes. I'm conscious of my weight. I went away recently, right? I went through my wardrobe to try and find something that fits. The only thing that fitted was the bloody wardrobe. And we had the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham a couple of years ago. I went to the boxing. I'm a huge boxing fan, right? If you've ever been to the boxing. So what happens is they start with the very small bouts and they go up to the large bouts, right? So the opening bout was for 45 kilograms. If you don't know what that is 7 stone. 100 pounds. That is not a weight category. That is a meal. And I'm sat with my friend and I'm converting all the weights. And she said, are you all right? I went, no, not really. I've just worked out I'm 3 pounds away from being a super heavyweight in the men's category. A friend of mine said to me once, a male comic said to me, you've actually got a nice face. I know, it's not awful. It gets worse. He said, if you lose 2 stone, I'll shag you. Oh. I said, what about half a stone for a finger? But diets are shit, aren't they? Diets are shit. I've done all the diets. I did a vegetarian diet, went to a vegan restaurant, forgot I'd got my leather handbag with me. This woman came up to me, she saw my handbag, she said, did a cow die for that? I went, no, but one's about to. I've gone to the gym. I go to the gym during the day. If you've ever been to a gym during the day, you'll notice it's full of really old people. I mean, really old people. I went to aqua aerobics the other day. It was like a scene from Titanic. There were loads of old people just clinging onto anything that floated. At one point, a set of teeth and a tenor lady floated past. And the women at the gym don't speak. They don't. And then the other day, this is horrible. The other day, we found a poo in the ladies' shower. I know, but you know what? Instant bonding. Oh my God, that's disgusting, awful, dreadful. Let's go for coffee. Yes, let's go for coffee. Christ, the things I do to make friends. I'm single, right? I think the reason is I'm a bit of a geezer bird. If you don't know what that is, ladette, tomboy. Somebody said to me, Karen, you're a geezer bird. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're the kind of woman men want to hang out with. It's no good. I want to be the kind of woman men want to hang out of. But I am a geezer. I've got 2 older brothers, right? So my mum wanted me to go to the Girl Guides. Now, when I ask this question, women in the room have been to the Girl Guides. I get a muted response like, When you ask boys who've been to the Cubs and Scouts, yay! And why? I'll tell you why, because they do all the good stuff. They do all the good stuff. They make fires, a bit of arson. They tie knots, a bit of bondage. What do we do? What do the girls... I'll tell you what the girls do. There was a badge called the hostess badge. You know what we did for it? We made a cup of tea. We learnt to iron. We made the bed. Anybody else think our leader was a lazy bitch and we're just doing her housework? And I don't know if you know this, I'm going to educate you now, because when Lord Baden-Powell first created the Cubs and Scouts, didn't do anything for the girls. And they were furious. They wanted their own movement. So he created their own movement, right? And do you know what he called it? He called it the Rosebuds. Oh, isn't that nice? The girls didn't like it because it wasn't lively enough. Well, I'm going to contradict that. Because if you Urban Dictionary Rosebud, I'm going to tell you what it means. It is the appearance of one's rectum after fisting. Oh, yes. So what did they call us instead? The Brownies. What was our motto? Lend a hand. Took me weeks to get that fisting badge. I'm going to leave you with a couple of things, if that's all right. The first thing I'm going to leave you with is my nan's motto about men. God rest her soul. She used to say, find 'em, feel 'em, fuck 'em, and forget 'em. No, she wasn't a slag. She had dementia. Sorry. People say, Karen, you talk about being single. You must meet loads of people doing comedy. I'm going to let you into a little comedy secret, right? Male comedians are fanny magnets. I'm more of a fridge magnet. I'm attracted to white, bulky things. And like a fridge, I have been dumped outside a council house. Oh, and it takes at least 2 men to get me in a van. Now, there's a rude bit to this, so strap yourselves in. Like a fridge. When my legs open, a light comes on. And there's something indistinguishable at the back that's starting to smell. I'm so sorry. Mind you, I said that the other night and this bloke went, yeah, well, you still eat it if you're pissed. It's all right, guys. I've got a wet wipe in my bag. You'll be fine. You've been lovely. Thank you very much. And good night.
Hiya, Karen.
Hello.
This was a delightful set. I measure how good a comedian is by how much my face hurts after a set.
I judge a lot of things by that, actually.
Yes. Well, the back of my head is actually a knot from laughing.
Oh, thank you.
It's delightful to have you here. So I noticed that you've been touring in your career all around the world. And I wonder if you could just share us a little bit of the sizzle. And what are some of the interesting stories from your travels?
Oh, that's a difficult one, actually. I feel so lucky sometimes to think that you go away somewhere and then you suddenly go, oh my God, I'm being paid to be here. And I remember going to Singapore and I went with a double act, a Topping and Butch. You may have heard of them. Great guys. And they just wanted to go shopping in Singapore. And we met this couple at the gig and they said, oh, we've got a boat. Do you want to come on our boat? And I was like, yeah, I love boats. And they were like, oh, and they genuinely thought it's just going to be like a fishing boat or we're just going to go around the harbour. But I talked them into going and we arrived and it was like a boat off James Bond.
Oh.
It was a super yacht.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is brilliant. And then we got in the sea and then one of the guys couldn't swim and they made him put, I don't know if you ever tried this, but if you can't swim, you get a life jacket and you put it on upside down. Oh. And it acts like a buoyancy aid.
Oh, nice.
So you just bob up and down and then they sent out this floating bar. And you kind of go, I'm being paid to be here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the ultimate sanitary towel. But for the but for the ocean, you know.
Yeah, I'd probably sink with the sanitary towel, to be fair. Yeah, because they're absorbent.
Yes.
Not that I really want to go into that in much detail, but yeah, I've never tried it.
No, that's another comedy set.
It is, isn't it? We're writing our own comedy set here, aren't we?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's a fetish.
Now you tell me. Yeah. You're sharing your fetishes with me. That's what's happening.
Oh, I'm just starting you off easy.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I really admire that you've had a career in comedy for 20 years. That the determination, the creativity that it takes, and I wasn't around back then, but I imagine it was different.
Rude. You had to just get that in, didn't you? You had to crowbar that in, like.
Well, obviously I'm 3 years old, and you're 35.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I can hit you with this microphone.
Let's do it. Audrey would just mute the channel for a second. Donk.
Donk.
But honestly, I admire that you've been going for so long, and you're still so hilarious. But how different was it for women when you first started?
There are still remnants of it, to be honest. I think, I look back, I've always followed comedy. I've always loved comedy. I've always been to watch comedy even way before I even started doing it myself. And I just used to stare at the stage and the microphone and think, oh God, I so want to do that. Just didn't have the guts to do it. And I think there's been so many walls that have been broken down by comedians before us that we should be really grateful. People like Joan Rivers, people like Joe Brand. Joe Brand in this country, Joan Rivers in America, that literally had pints poured over them, things thrown at them, catcalled, shouted at, spat at. Really horrible, horrible things happened to them just because they wanted to get up on stage and make somebody laugh. Yep. And what you get now is you get like a passive-aggressive kind of... The kind of people who say, oh, I don't normally find women funny, but you were great. And you're going to go, so you've just insulted all my mates then. That's not a compliment. I don't find everybody funny. Male, female, it's subjective. That's the whole point of comedy. Yeah. And there's going to be people that I love and people that I don't like so much. I've got some amazing female comics that I went to see Sarah Millican on Sunday, actually. She's a good friend of mine. I went to see her. Absolutely brilliant. And there's loads of female comics who are superb. There's some that may not be my taste. Same with men. But the thing is, if you see a female that's not very good, because there's less of us, all of a sudden, we're all shit. Yeah. But how many shit male comics have you seen?
Oh, so many.
Yeah, exactly. Many. So there's still that kind of, you know what, in comedy particularly as well, so getting rid of racism, getting rid of homophobia, things like that. Misogyny is still alive and kicking, unfortunately. And it's very hard because you could say you won't book me because I'm a woman. They go, no, I won't book you because you're not funny. And how can you prove that? You can't. There are some comedy clubs in this country that still will make a big thing about not booking women.
Okay.
So but that's it. You just ignore them and get on and do your thing. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Otherwise you get bitter and, she says, sounding bitter. But, you just have to crack on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, much to their loss.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and also as well, I talk about all sorts of things. I'm a massive football fan, so I talk about football. But then people go, oh, you're only talking about football to get the men to like you. And I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. Yeah. No, I'm not talking about it because I like it. Right.
Yeah, we've got to be beyond that. Come on. There's like a national female football league.
Exactly.
It is beyond.
Yeah, and there was that all that meme going around during the World Cup for the men. If you want it done right, get the women to do it. So.
Well, they look better and they complain less.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Not that I've actually ever watched more than half of a female's football game.
Have you watched a male's football game?
A quarter. I'm not much of a football guy.
Are you not?
No, I've never been to a live game.
You have to go. Come to Birmingham. I'll take you to West Brom.
Okay.
Yeah. Come to and you will want to go again.
Because what I understand, it's all about the ritual. You get the meat in a bun, whatever it is. You sit down with your mates, and then
what in a bun?
I'm making this up. I don't know what I'm doing.
You are making it up. You're talking out your backside at the moment. I have no clue what you're talking about.
I'm just projecting what happens at the football.
Right, okay.
Yeah. What happens at the football, Karen?
Well, if you support my team, a lot of crying normally. It's just the whole atmosphere. And I mean, I love going to West Brom. The fans are very funny. There's lots of chanting, and if you go, it can be really good fun, good spirited fun.
I've noticed that you've also been writing for TV. And we're just talking offset for a minute because you're writing for things like 8 out of 10 Cats and Celebrity Juice, and you corrected me because you're writing for particular comedians. Yeah,
so people have been on those shows and then they've asked me to write with them because I probably write with them anyway. So it's knowing people that you can share, that if you've got the same kind of voice, you've got the same kind of... Because I think as well, what I love with comedy, it can be very collaborative. You can be in a green room with somebody and you can have done a joke and somebody goes, oh my God, I like that joke. You could add a topper to it and they'll give you an idea. Yeah. And you go, oh yeah, can I have that? Yeah. And then, if you do that to somebody else, there was quite a well-known comedian that I said a bit to, and I thought, oh. And he went, oh, can I use that? I was like, you go, yeah, you can. And then when you see them do it and they get a laugh, you're I wrote that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I feel like this is the beautiful part to the stand-up comedy scene that not many people talk about. Because often people perceive it as kind of a lone wolf thing, like very elbows out competitive. But you're right, when it comes to like a writing dynamic, is there one that you work in at the moment?
Well, there's one in Birmingham. The Glee Club in Birmingham is called Rough Works. So that is a Sunday night. It's professional comedians trying out new stuff. Sarah Millican, actually, she has one that she does, gets her friends together and we all just try new stuff out. And again, that's very collaborative. So, you might be watching another comedian on stage and you might come off and go, oh, what about that bit? Or, oh, have you thought of that? And it's just and it's great because you can have the idea for a joke, but sometimes getting that punchline, and it's the premise of if it's your premise, if you've come up with the idea, it's kind of your material. But then people feel that they can chip in and give it jokes, you know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who I used to do a cabaret with. I get him on the phone a couple of hours before the show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, da-da-da-da-da. No one, if he doesn't laugh, I think, okay, joke's out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or you might Joe was, I'm friends with Joe Lycett, who I've worked with, and he was doing the Commonwealth Games. He was at the actual ceremony introducing the countries, and he phoned me up and he said, I'm going to try this bit, what do you think? And I was like, oh my God, are you really going to say that? And I watched it and he did, and I was like, oh. It was brilliant, but it was just like, I think he said, I'm going to do something that our government normally doesn't do, and introduce people from different countries.
Hey.
And he told me that on the phone before he did it, and I was like, you're never going to do that. And I was so proud he did. So yeah, sometimes a sounding board. Yeah.
Hipster clicks for Joe Lycett. I love that. So what's it like, because I know that you've opened for Joe Lycett, what's the experience like doing that tour and working for that audience?
It's amazing. I think, and quite a few comedians do this. So so I saw Sarah on Sunday, and so Joe would go on and then do a little bit, then introduce me, and Sarah did that with her support act. And it sort of gives the audience permission to sort of, this is from my mates, they're going to entertain you for a bit, enjoy, and I'll be back. And it makes it so you're not just a support act, because sometimes you do. I have done support where you literally, I did puppetry of the penis.
Okay.
You know what puppetry of the penis, yeah. But they didn't tell them they'd got a support act. So they literally went, and all these women were getting really excited about seeing a bit of cock. And then they go, welcome Karen Bayley. And the groan was huge. And I just went on and went, I'm sorry I don't have a penis. But I actually ended up having a really good gig. But it could have been so much easier if they know there's a support act.
Yes.
Because, and also as well, you're not, it takes a lot of pressure off you because they're not there to see you. So if you have a good gig, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's great. I mean, there were some gigs that I did with Joe were just like, oh my God, I was so buzzing afterwards because he just had such a great gig, and you think, they haven't come to see me. Yeah, so. I
love that friendship bond, and that's a very special place to do the comedy from. Now, I wanted to just finish up, Karen, on saying, where can we see you next? Have you got any gigs coming up for the end of the year or 2025 you'd like us to see?
Oh, I'm all over the place. So I'm in London, I'm in Birmingham, I'm back at the Comedy Store soon in London, which is probably the best gig in the country. It's just phenomenal. And if anybody hasn't been to live comedy, go there. But yeah, I just check out on my socials. I have to, when they say like, you're going to do socials.
Yeah.
And I just normally go, if you want to follow me, I'm going to be outside in 10 minutes. So yeah, and I'm making a website. My agent will shout at me, "Where's your website?" But yeah, I'm all over the place. But you can find me all over the country, really.
Was it on Instagram? Karen.Bayley.1.
Yeah, Karen Bayley 1, Bayley. Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, Karen, it's been such a pleasure to chat to you.
And you. Thank you very much for having me.
Let's hear it for Karen.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Audrey Tang, a chartered psychologist, and on my show, Mental Health Matters, we take a deep dive into all things mental health and well-being with the experts. So join us at 8 a.m. PST on Thursdays on the Fresh Takes channel, because Mental Health Matters on E360 TV.
Our next guest has one of the most unique career trajectories that you'll ever hear. From rocking the stage at the Comedy Store to being a chart-topping pop star. He's now one of the world's leading business psychologists, working with top CEOs, politicians, and entertainment icons, helping them to enhance their communication and leadership skills. He's the author of multiple best-selling books and host of the acclaimed Humorology podcast, and known as the Pitch Doctor. So please welcome a man who's made the leap from banter to the boardroom, bringing humor and insight together to transform the way the world's top leaders communicate. Please welcome Poole Boross. Well, Poole, thank you so much for joining me here in the studio.
It's my pleasure, Thomas. It's lovely to see you.
It's really interesting to learn about your career and the way that you've come from the Comedy Store and then decided to change your career completely and focus on the business world and inspiring business leaders on communications and, in more recent years, in humorology. But as a fellow comedian myself, I wanted to ask you, what is it that great leaders have in common with comedians?
Well, I think, having worked at the Comedy Store, what I saw were leaders. You know, the Paul Mertons, the Jack Dees, the Julian Clarys, they were leading an audience. And what they have is charisma. And to get anyone to follow you, you have to have charisma. And the best leaders know that they can take people with them on a journey. You don't just sort of like order people. At the Comedy Store, you can't go, laugh, that's funny.
Yeah.
You have to take them with you. And that's what great leaders have, is that ability, that charisma, if you like, to be able to take people on a journey and make sure that they know where they're going. It's also about trust. The one thing that any audience needs, and whether that's an audience of people who work for you or an audience in the Comedy Store, for instance, they need to trust that you know what you're doing, and then they may go along with you. Without the trust, you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. You might sign their paychecks, but if they don't trust you, you're not going to get to the deadline.
Well, that's 100% right. And trust is inherent in every great leader and every great comedian. Think of any comedian who you can think of that goes on stage. What's the first thing you have to do?
Well, Bill Bayley, he comes out and does a fabulous one-liner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you go, we relax. There's a saying in psychology that if you want anyone to go into any state, you have to go into that state first.
Yes.
And all great comedians and all great leaders go into the state first. And that state is, you know what? I've got this.
Yeah.
Everybody relax.
Exactly. Yes. So what do you think it is, like going into a bit of nitty-gritty, what are the transferable skills from, say, someone who is a craftsman of making you laugh on stage and someone who's leading in the boardroom?
Well, instantly transferable skills, I suppose, about knowing where you're going. If you think of a joke, you know, the people who can't tell jokes cannot remember the punchline. You have to know where you're going. And that's about actually understanding what the structure that people like is. You know, in order to follow somebody, we need to feel like, okay, they know what they're doing. And so the structure of a joke is always, my mother, for instance, God bless her, she will start a joke without knowing what the tag is.
Oh, bless her.
You know, and you go, oh, and I think there were some people who came around and everything, and you go, and it's the same thing in business. What is your purpose? Where are you going? And how are we going to take people along with us? And that's what leadership really is about taking people on a journey. You know, what is a leader? You know, without followers is nobody.
Indeed. So, like, you make me think about the way that, you know, complex ideas get communicated. Because, like, for example, when I've worked for some of the banks in the past, and I've seen things like, what did they call it? Simplification. You know, it was like essentially like, you know, lots of centers getting closed, and how do they communicate that to sound like something that you can trust so that you don't go on LinkedIn and be like, I'm available. So, like, how do business leaders communicate complex ideas, and how does humor play into that?
Well, if you think about the best comedians in the world, they are constantly editing it down to just the necessary words. That's what comedy is. You're not, one word's too much, it's not funny.
Yeah.
You know that. As a comedian, you go, how come I didn't get a laugh off this? And then the next night you'll go out and do the same bit, but you'll change one word.
Yeah.
And suddenly it will get a laugh. Well, it's the same in business. You know, that simplification of the message is what hooks people. And a job of any business is to hook people. The job of any comedian is to hook people and keep them hooked.
Yes.
And that simplification, or clarity is another word. The clarity of your message. What are you saying you are? What is your company? You know, if we want to continue the analogy with comedians, when a comedian comes on stage, you kind of have to know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
What there's, you know, I
Exactly.
started out when Jack D started out. And Jack, when he started out, Jack D's, for our American audience, a very famous British curmudgeonly comedian who you sense as, you know, seen a lot of tough things in his life. And, you know, but he didn't start out like that. He started out trying to be quite jolly. But as soon as he hooked into the idea of this is me and I'm slightly grouchy about the world, you know where they're coming from. It's the same thing with a company. What do they do? You know, there used to be an advert in the UK which was for Ronseal, which was this stuff that kept wood thing, and it said, it does what it says on the tin. And good companies, you kind of get it straight away. What does it do?
Yeah.
I know what that does. I'll use it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because if you can clearly communicate your message, but you feel like it's coming from an actual individual with a life story, and you can trust that life story, then you're going to listen to what the business proposition is.
Well, yeah, and it's about using your life story as well. I was lucky enough to work with Sir Richard Branson in the early days of Virgin Atlantic, and also my first band was signed to Virgin Records. So I saw close up, and I used to write his speeches, funnily enough. I saw close up, and he was able to make people believe in him first and buy into him. And his fun, because everything about the Virgin brand was the small guy trying to, you know, the David and Goliath trying to beat the big guy. Yeah. And so all he had to play with was to make it more fun. Yeah. And there's a study in America, and I know we have a lot of American people watch this show, a study that shows people will change supplier based on one criteria. Everything. And it's something like 65% of people will change supplier. One criteria, and that criteria is if they think the new supplier is more fun.
Okay.
Because if you think about it psychologically, as a psychologist, who do we want to be around? We want to be around people who make us feel good.
Absolutely.
And if you're making a business decision and you've got two companies and they're both providing the same service, unconsciously, who are you going to go with?
Yeah, exactly. But they both provide internet, but one CEO skydives onto the skyscraper for his meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And we, psychologically, we go, oh, I want to be with the fun group. Yeah. You know when you're at a wedding or a party and you see everybody on another table laughing and nobody on your table is having fun and you're just going, I want to be over there.
Yeah, can I change families?
Yeah, exactly. But that's it. But that's the compulsion. And I think that's what business can learn about from humour, is where do we want to be? Who do we want to employ? Who do we want to be around? We want to be around people who we can have more fun with.
Yes. I've heard it said that like the front page of your website is often an advertisement to your future employees.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, like giving the kind of culture of the type of people that you want to work for you. I mean, what type of challenges do you find that your CEOs and high-level communicators are facing? Why do they come to you for your support and guidance?
Well, one of the big things is of communicating their message. And the problem is that confidence doesn't always go with how far you've gone in the company. And people who aren't confident won't be able to take anybody else on a journey. Won't be, and the ability to tell a story about the company. We are all communicating at all times.
Yes.
And so it's the little things that sometimes CEOs and people in leadership positions don't understand. That the body language, for instance, we know as performers that your body language is everything.
Exactly.
And you have to show that. But of course, you can get a CEO who will be delivering exactly the right words, but they may be delivering them in a voice that's slightly hesitant and a little bit confused.
Yeah.
And he'll go, but I've told them exactly what I want them to do.
Yeah.
And my thing is, they don't believe you. So a lot of the work I do is about giving people a belief system that can carry them through their lives.
Ooh, this sounds fascinating. Tell me more about the belief system.
Well, the belief system is what holds you up.
Yeah.
If you walk into any room, that I've had people in big companies who go, I'm fine talking to 3 people, but as soon as it gets to 4 or 5, I fall to pieces.
Yeah.
Now that's your belief system.
Yes, what they believe about themselves. I'm not good, I can't speak in front of
X amount of people.
Yeah.
And that becomes an individual belief system whereby you go, I'm fine in this. 1-to-1, I'm absolutely fine. But as soon as I see lots of other people out there, I fall apart. So what do you have to work with? The initial belief system. Now, people will come up to you all the time, Thomas, and go, I don't know how you do what you do. Getting up in front of those people. Now, your belief system is, it'll be fine. It'll be fun. I'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
My job is to get your belief system into people like CEOs who can't naturally do it, and then give them the mechanics, which is of where to look.
Yes.
How to bring people into the conversation, how to look like you own the room. Those are the mechanics, but it all starts with a belief system.
Absolutely. I think the belief system is so fundamental to having confidence. I've heard it said once by Damon Cart, he's a fantastic coach. He said that confidence only represents how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that you speak to many business professionals and they have like a low estimation of themselves despite their position in the world?
Absolutely. Well, they're scared like everybody else. I mean, most of life, we know this. I mean, I've been with the biggest comedians, the biggest rock stars backstage. They're still pacing up and down.
Yeah.
They're still doing. But the public think, they've got this. No, what they've got is that ability to anchor themselves. You know that thing when you put your foot on the stage, you change.
Yeah.
You come alive.
Yeah, all the triggers.
The triggers. It's a trigger response mechanism. You anchor yourself into those triggers. And most people have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you are, you were talking about King Charles earlier on. You don't think that King Charles has imposter syndrome?
It's a great question.
Of course, everybody does. I've met royalty. I've worked with royalty. I've worked with sort of politicians of all hues. And they still have the thing. What they have is that switch, that ability to just go, I'm on, and then get everybody else to believe it.
Yes.
And so that's really the trick in life. We are all imposters. It's just how you present it. That's all it is. If I had my way, I think that I would give everyone drama lessons when they're very young.
Yes.
Because then you actually have to do that. And we have a lot of American people watching this. The reason I travel all over the world, teaching people how to pitch and how to communicate. And I always say that the reason the Americans are so good at it is because everybody at school in America has to do show and tell. So from when you're a little child, you have to bring in and go, this is a pencil, and the pencil was invented in a thing. So you're used to actually standing up and doing it. Now, lots of other countries, I work all over Europe, I work in America as well. The Americans are much better at just standing up and doing it.
Yeah, and being a bit more forthright.
Yeah. The Australians aren't bad at it either, are they?
They got a bit blunt.
Well, no, but that's a trait that's good. But they're blunt and they bluster a bit and a thing. But that's good.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should have more of that ability to actually stand up. Maybe everybody should have to stand up at some time in their life.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, what is it, the secret sauce, do you think, that allows, the leaders that we admire to captivate a room in that way?
It's the eternal question, isn't it? It's like, have they got an extra chromosome? Or have they got some... What is the secret sauce? I think the secret sauce is a combination of listening, because one of the things that people don't think is that great comedians, great leaders are great listeners, because you have to be able to listen to what the audience wants.
Yes, constantly react and reinterpret.
And that listening skill is crucial to anyone doing it. And the other skill, I think it is, because I think you can learn charisma. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I think if you are around charismatic people, you can steal their skills. Because if I said to you, walk into the room as if you are... Well, you sometimes may do this in your head when you first started in comedy. Walk into the room as if you are your favourite comedian. If you walked in, I worked a lot with Eddie Izzard and everything. Eddie used to work as if he was Billy Connolly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was like, and if you see early Eddie, there is a lot of, and he will admit to that. And what he's doing is essentially stealing a skill.
Yes.
But what happens is it gets reinterpreted through us. So I could come on here and pretend to be Tom Cruise and start acting like that.
Jumping up and down the
chair.
Jumping
up and down the chair, going, and then the thing. And you're as pretty as Oprah.
He said it.
But actually, you wouldn't know that I was internally pretending to be Tom Cruise.
Indeed.
I would just inhabit some of those characteristics. And that, I think, is what those two things, listening and being able to steal a skill and become more charismatic.
Yes, I like this. And I think you've hit on an interesting note there, because I think one of my deep inspirations is John Oliver from the Last Week Tonight show. I love his format. I love how tight it is. And when I write my scripts, I try to embody John Oliver and then just get it a bit Aussie.
Yeah. But we are all, when we are doing something, we're all stealing. I remember listening to Paul McCartney tell a story about when the Beatles first started. They panicked when their song was first on the radio because they thought everybody would realise that they'd stolen some Chuck Berry. And but of course what happens is the first thing we do is we copy, we interpret, and it comes out in a different way. So actually, it's a good thing, and it's how children learn.
Exactly.
Play. And that ability to play is what makes the difference. I think, comedians and the best leaders, like Sir Richard Branson, still have that childlike ability to just play and learn through play.
Yeah, that's a very astute point. And I think that playfulness is like the complete opposite to things like shyness and like self-doubt, imposter syndrome, like you're saying earlier. So if there are people watching this episode and they're thinking like, how can I start to be more playful in my business? Because I feel like it's a risk. I think that's often one of the concerns. Like they're going to make a fool of themselves. How would you say should they start out?
I think it's being brave. It's like allowing yourself. I know in this world that people are much more sensitive, but do you know what? Actually, the bravery, I think, is always rewarded, because if you're half-hearted about a joke or a jape, I think the answer to your question really is about rapport. Become an expert at getting rapport with people. But that means practicing it.
Yeah.
So not just going and doing it at work and going, I am now going to do a joke. Yes, it's not about that. It's about, you know, when you go to your favourite coffee shop, can I have a little bit of a laugh and a joke with the person behind the counter? Can I start like that? Can I start by smiling at people in the street? You know, having a playfulness at a station. Work up to it. Play with it. And like everything, practice makes perfect. You know, we're going to make mistakes.
So, Paul, you are the host of the Humorology podcast. I've been listening to it recently, and I love the way that you guide the conversation and the kind of guest selection behind it. Will you tell us a little bit about it and what's going on in the future?
Well, humorology is my passion because I'm a psychologist and I was a comedian. So it's really the intersection of the two things. But I think humorology is a bigger thing. It's not about being funny at work.
Yeah.
It's more about the humanity, the humility, and humour as a tool, really, to get rapport with people, to connect with people. And I think if you can laugh with somebody, you are automatically bonded. And that's really what the whole humorology podcast is about, but the whole humorology ethos is about how can we use humour, which doesn't just mean jokes. It means, you know, in the sense of having a good humour, about being nice, being kind, being pleasant, all the warmth that comes with those things. And what we do on the Humorology podcast is we talk to great leaders. We've had, you know, great political figures. We've had everybody from Alistair Campbell to Lord William Hague, but then comedians like Joe Brand and all kinds of people. And we get to the essence of how has humour changed their lives. And sometimes it's people like John Sweeney, who has been in 60 war zones around the world. And he talks about, if you don't have a sense of humour when somebody's holding a gun to your head and claiming you're not from the press, and how do you get through life generally if humour is a tool for life? Because humorologists see life in a different way. If you can see the funny side of something, you get a perspective on it. And that's what humorology is about getting a perspective on life and then bringing some lightness to it.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait to listen to another episode. And finally, where can we find more about you?
Well, if you just go to pooleBoross.com, that's BOROSS, pooleBoross.com, or go to humorology.co. It's all there.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Thomas.
Wow, this has been a fantastic episode of the Groovie Bunch. I'd like you to join me in thanking these two comedy legends, Paul Boross and Karen Bayley. This has been the Groovie Bunch, and I'm your host, Thomas W. Kelly. You are fucking fabulous.